Yeah.
Tulsi Gabbard denounced identity politics outright with Michael Tracy. She said straight up, it's divisive, it's bad for us.
Okay.
Identitarianism is one of the biggest things that I have a problem with due to my family history being, I know it's kind of a meme, but mixed. And this comes from when we look at affirmative
But Tim,
action.
isn't that identity politics? You're saying your view on this is informed. You're against identity politics as informed by your identity.
Tim Pool recently joined David Pakman on his show, The David Pakman Show. Tim Pool and David Pakman argued the reality and dangers of identity politics. As expected, Tim Pool wrecked Wokey Wokington, David Pakman, with, you guessed it, facts, not feelings. Let's go.
Out. You know, I've been physically attacked by the left, not the right. People are right now taking a quote from Vox.com to make it seem like I am an anti-Semite so they can get me removed from my bank account and stuff. That's not coming from conservatives. It never has.
That's fair. That's totally fair. But I guess what's important to me...
I will go through these videos, though. I will. So forgive me.
And I actually don't need you to do an accounting of each video. For me, it's more, if I look at your channel and 85% is criticisms that are what I would consider relatively niche in terms of their existence on the left. It doesn't strike me as someone whose priorities are center left to say, here's what I think 85% of my channel should be.
But here's the thing. Yeah. Tulsi Gabbard denounced identity politics outright with Michael Tracy. She said straight up, it's divisive, it's bad for us.
Okay.
Identitarianism is one of the biggest things that I have a problem with due to my family history being, I know it's kind of a meme, but mixed. And this comes from when we look at affirmative action.
But Tim, isn't that identity politics? You're saying your view on this is informed. You're against identity politics as informed by your identity.
Yeah, it is what it is. I'll put it this way. I am not permitted, the left nor the right allow me an identity. So what that does is it kind of ostracizes me. And what I find recluse, not recluse, but what I find safe harbor, I guess, is the fact that the U.S. actually had protections against discrimination based on race in these things. So for me, someone who's experienced it from both directions, I'm apprehensive towards either direction. When I have the left telling me I'm a white male and the right telling me I'm a mudblood, like I'm not going to be happy.
Fine, but Tim, so I have the left saying I'm not Jewish, I'm white, and I have white privilege, and I have the right saying I'm not white, I'm Jewish, and Jews are a race that is really bad, and we should be really. So the fact that but that doesn't make me all of a sudden say I'm going to do 85% of my videos and criticize the left. You know what I mean?
No, I think it's what you personally find important, right? You know, if you watch any of my videos.
Hey, if you like videos like this one, like, subscribe, and blah, 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 blah. Let's get back to the video.
Like, so here's the thing.
Yeah.
Subject matter doesn't dictate politics simply because you've got, you know, who's, and again, it's my opinion, but when I say who's trying to remove people from the internet, it's not like Nancy Pelosi. It's a particular sect of a group of progressive, more far left individuals who's trying to get people removed from their banks, who's trying to get people banned, who's arguing in favor of regulation that restricts speech. It's not conservatives and it's not moderate Democrats.
Okay, but a lot of your stories don't relate specifically to that issue. But let's not belabor it. I do find it sort of interesting, though, that in the same sentence that you said you're against identity politics and that's why you like Tulsi, you made an identity politics argument based on your identity, which strikes me as a contradiction of sorts. That was weird to me.
There's the support of politics based on someone's identity and the support of opposition to that, right? I don't. And let me make clear, some identity politics are absolutely a good thing. It's identitarianism that's a bad thing. So maybe that's. So I tell people this: authority is a good thing. Like when a doctor tells you, "Hey, there's someone injured. Put your hand on the wound." That's true authority. You'll just do it. You know they're right.
Okay.
But authoritarianism is a really, really bad thing. So telling someone in our society you cannot factor in race in terms of public accommodation, that's a violation of civil rights. I like that. When you say we're absolutely going to factor in race, I don't like that. So it's nuanced, I guess, right?
And does anyone who's saying that we have to factor in race when it's not a relevant factor?
The ACLU, when they supported affirmative action at Harvard, which lumps all Asians, Indian, Chinese, Laotians into one category, and I find that offensive as an Asian person. And so when I come out and say—
But Tim, that's an identity to say. You should be able to argue whether it's offensive or not offensive, right or not right, without saying because you are part Asian. You find like that's identity politics, which you claim to be against.
I agree. And I think the clarification then, I think what we're discovering here is that it's not so much the core idea of identity politics, it's the application of in ways that either is reductive or authoritarian. So
Okay.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Tim Pool, and I definitely don't agree with him on everything, but I think he's pretty open minded as far as his opinions, and I think he's been criticized in the past for riding the fence on certain issues, but I think he does a really good job. And you know, I've said multiple times on this channel that I don't think we live in a racist country, but that's not to say that, you know, racism doesn't exist, or that people being treated differently because of the way they look, or some characteristic about them doesn't happen. I mean, there are just bad, evil people out there. Yeah, I've heard Tim Pool mention over the years that he receives nasty messages, you know, from the right and from the left, and feels like, you know, he's in limbo kind of. And I I empathize with him. I think that's terrible, and I certainly don't support any side that would not welcome anyone with open arms. As great as Tim Pool is, though, I feel like I didn't love his answer. I mean, he was talking about his individual experience, and that was interesting to hear. But when challenged by David Pakman about the fact that he's criticizing identity politics from an identity politics argument, I don't think that's what he did. I look at it as the opposite. I look at it as, and you know, there's so much discussion in this country about black and white. Asians kind of get short shrift because when affirmative action is instituted, Asians are often the most negatively affected by it, because as a group, statistically, not from an identity politics standpoint, just as a fact, Asian Americans are the most successful ethnicity in this country. So when affirmative action is put into place and test scores are lowered for certain groups and even raised for top performing groups, I don't think the effect on Asian Americans is highlighted as much as it should be, because these are the people that are working very hard, sacrificing their time to study and prepare for college or for a job or whatever it is, and oftentimes very skilled at whatever it is that they're pursuing. And those folks that are the most highly skilled are oftentimes the ones who get hit the hardest when you initiate DEI initiatives or affirmative action, things like that. So maybe there should be more of a focus on the negative effects it has on the Asian community, because if we focused on a minority and the negative effects that DEI and affirmative action has on that group, maybe people that aren't sympathetic to white Americans, maybe it would resonate with them more. And for context in this short commentary that I'm giving here, it's probably important for me to articulate what my definition of identity politics is. I identify identity politics as advocating for a specific group's rights and interests, and those groups are typically based around race, ethnicity, sexuality, or gender. That's what I understand it to be. You know, he mentioned that Tulsi Gabbard mentioned that identity politics is not helpful to our society and it's divisive. Without question it is, because if I expand my definition of identity politics, the rights and interests that I mentioned are typically based on the experience of that specific group that we're talking about. I have a problem with that because I want all of us to look at one another as individuals and judge one another that way. I think it is just such a broad statement to say that one group, because of skin color or because of sexuality or because of gender, that everyone in that group faces the same challenges, benefits, etc. For me personally, that getting rid of identity politics, and which spawns things like DEI, is one of the things that we should get away from in this country. Finally, besides divisiveness and not focusing on the individual, I also think identity politics is about control as well. Because if you get these big groups that all feel that they're disadvantaged somehow, well, there's got to be someone or something to blame that on. So that has people fighting with one another based on what a group said instead of their experience. I mean, what if you're part of a group and what they purport to be their biggest issues don't relate to you at all? I think there are bigger powers that be, and This sounds like a conspiracy theory, but I won't back off of it. I think there are powers that be that want the average people of this country fighting with one another and have a vested interest in that so that we're not looking at what they're doing. And I don't think it's a stretch to say that. Bottom line, identity politics bad. Judge people on the content of their character. Anyway, that's it for today's video. If you like watching folks like Tim Pool own dummies like David Pakman, then click on one of the two videos that just popped up on your screen. Otherwise, I really, really appreciate you watching today. The end.